In the annals of human cruelty, few names inspire the same visceral dread as Vlad III of Wallachia. While history remembers many tyrants for their conquests or political machinations, Vlad earned his place in infamy through something far more sinister: the methodical perfection of human suffering. His reign was not measured in territories gained or enemies defeated, but in the screams that echoed from his forests of the impaled. The man who would become known as Vlad the Impaler ruled during one of Europe's most turbulent periods, when the Ottoman Empire pressed relentlessly into Christian lands. Yet even in an age accustomed to brutality, Vlad's methods shocked both allies and enemies alike. He transformed punishment from mere justice into theatrical horror, turning execution into an art form of prolonged agony. What drove a man to such extremes? Was it madness, calculated strategy, or something darker? The truth lies buried beneath centuries of legend and propaganda, where the line between monster and protector becomes impossibly blurred. This is not merely the story of a cruel ruler, but an exploration of how power, when unchecked by conscience, can transform a human being into something far worse than any fictional monster. To understand Vlad's cruelty, we must first delve deeper into his world, a realm where survival demanded brutality and where the weak were consumed by forces beyond their comprehension. Yet even by the standards of his time, Vlad's methods were unprecedented in their creativity and calculated horror. His legacy would eventually inspire literature's most famous vampire, but the real Vlad Dracula was far more terrifying than any fictional creation. The story that unfolds is not for the faint of heart. It's a journey into the darkest corners of human nature, where political necessity meets pathological sadism, and where the pursuit of power transforms a man into history's most innovative architect of suffering. Born in 1431 in the fortress city of Sighisoara, Transylvania, then part of the Kingdom of Hungary, Vlad III was the second son of Vlad II Dracul, a member of the Order of the Dragon, a chivalric order dedicated to defending Christianity against the Ottoman threat. The surname Dracula simply means son of Dracul, with Dracul deriving from the Latin Draco for dragon, symbolizing his father's affiliation. From his earliest days, Vlad's life was steeped in violence and political intrigue. Wallachia, the principality he would later rule, was a volatile buffer state sandwiched between the expanding Ottoman Empire to the south and the powerful Kingdom of Hungary to the north. It was a land of shifting alliances, where princes rose and fell with the whims of greater powers, and betrayal was as common as the changing seasons. Vlad's childhood was marked by tragedy and hardship, shaping the ruthless leader he would become. In 1442, at the tender age of 11, Vlad and his younger brother Radu were sent as hostages to the Ottoman court in Edirne, then Adrianople, to secure their father's loyalty to Sultan Murad II. This was a standard practice in Ottoman diplomacy, holding the children of vassal rulers to ensure compliance. For Vlad, these years were formative and harrowing. He witnessed the opulent yet brutal world of the Ottomans firsthand: public executions, the Janissary system where Christian boys were converted to Islam and trained as elite soldiers, and the unyielding machinery of empire building. Sources suggest Vlad was subjected to physical and psychological abuse during his captivity, including beatings and isolation, which fueled a deep-seated hatred for the Turks. His brother Radu, conversely, adapted well, converting to Islam and becoming a favorite of the future Sultan Mehmed II, which created a lifelong rift between the siblings. While in Ottoman custody, Vlad learned the arts of warfare, governance, and, crucially, psychological intimidation. The Ottomans were masters of using fear as a tool. Floggings, beheadings, and impalements were public spectacles designed to deter rebellion. Vlad absorbed these lessons, but he would later refine them into something even more grotesque. Released in 1448 after his father's assassination by rival boyars, Wallachian nobles, backed by Hungarian interests, the 17-year-old Vlad made his first brief claim to the throne of Wallachia with Ottoman support. This initial reign lasted only 2 months before he was ousted, forcing him into exile. Over the next 8 years, Vlad navigated a treacherous path of alliances, serving under Hungarian King John Hunyadi and plotting his return. These experiences hardened him further. He saw his elder brother Mircea tortured and buried alive by the same boyars who killed his father. Vlad learned that mercy was a luxury rulers could ill afford, and that power was maintained not through fairness, but through unyielding dominance. In 1456, with Hungarian backing, Vlad reclaimed the throne, beginning his second and most infamous reign, which would last until 1462. Wallachia was in chaos, ravaged by internal strife, economic corruption, and constant Ottoman incursions. The boyars, the landed nobility, wielded immense power, often conspiring against princes to advance their own interests. Vlad inherited a fractured realm where loyalty was fleeting and foreign powers pulled strings from afar. His response was swift and merciless. He vowed to centralize power, eliminate corruption, and defend Wallachia against all threats. But his methods went beyond reform. They became a symphony of terror. Vlad's signature punishment, impalement, was not invented by him but perfected under his rule. Derived from ancient Assyrian and Persian practices and used sporadically by the Ottomans, impalement in Vlad's hands became a science of suffering. Stakes were crafted from wood, often oak or fir, smoothed but blunted at the tip to prevent quick death. Victims, ranging from traitorous boyars to captured enemies, thieves, and even the poor or infirm, were stripped naked to heighten humiliation. The stake was lubricated with oil or lard and inserted through the rectum or vagina, carefully maneuvered to avoid piercing vital organs immediately. The victim was then hoisted upright, gravity pulling them downward inch by agonizing inch. Skilled executioners could ensure survival for up to 3 days, with the stake emerging from the mouth, chest, or back. Vlad's forests of the impaled, sometimes numbering in the thousands, lined roads and fields, serving as macabre billboards of his authority. But impalement was just one tool in Vlad's arsenal of atrocities. Historical accounts, including German pamphlets from the 15th century and Ottoman chronicles, detail a litany of horrors. Flaying alive was common. Victims had their skin peeled off in strips using hooked knives, starting from the feet or hands, while salt was rubbed into wounds to prolong agony. Boiling was another favorite. Prisoners were suspended over cauldrons of bubbling oil or water, lowered gradually so their flesh cooked layer by layer without immediate fatality. Crushing involved mechanical devices or heavy stones to shatter bones systematically, beginning with fingers and toes. Vlad also employed roasting. Enemies tied to spits and turned over open fires like meat, or enclosed in iron cages and heated until death. One particularly gruesome method was the feet-flaying torture, reserved for Turkish prisoners. Their soles were skinned, then they were forced to walk on salt-strewn ground before impalement. Vlad's cruelty extended to the vulnerable. According to sources like the German chronicler Michel Boheim, he once gathered the poor, sick, and beggars of Targovist for a feast, only to lock them in and burn the hall alive, declaring he was eliminating poverty. Women accused of adultery faced mutilation, breasts cut off, skins flayed, or impaled through the genitals. Pregnant women had their bellies ripped open, and infants were sometimes impaled alongside their mothers. Captive Ottoman women suffered unspeakable fates, raped, disemboweled, or used as human targets for archery practice. These acts weren't random. They were calculated to instill universal fear, ensuring no one, regardless of status, dared oppose him. The most infamous episode was the 1459 Easter massacre in Targovist. Vlad invited hundreds of boyars and their families to a lavish banquet, ostensibly to foster unity. As the feast progressed, with wine flowing and laughter echoing, Vlad's guards sealed the doors. He accused the boyars of his father's murder and brother's death. The elderly were impaled on the spot, their writhing bodies forming a grotesque centerpiece. Younger ones and their kin, women and children included, were marched 50 miles to Poenary Castle, often called the real Castle Dracula, in their finery, through rugged terrain. There, they were forced into slave labor, building the fortress atop a sheer cliff. Many perished from exhaustion, starvation, or falls. Survivors worked until their clothes disintegrated, their noble hands blistered and broken. Vlad supervised personally, dining amid the impaled and mocking their plight. This purge eradicated the old nobility, replacing them with loyal commoners elevated to boyar status, consolidating his power in one bloody stroke. Foreign witnesses amplified Vlad's legend. A German merchant, Jacob Rem, described entering Targovist to find a forest of the dying, over 500 stakes in circles, with victims in decay, birds pecking at eyes, and survivors moaning. The stench forced his party to mask their faces. Sultan Mehmed II, the conqueror of Constantinople, invaded Wallachia in 1462 with 90,000 troops. Vlad, outnumbered, waged guerrilla warfare and scorched-earth tactics. He poisoned wells with corpses, burned villages, and left impaled Turks as warnings. The climax was a field of 20,000 impaled Ottoman prisoners near Targovist, men, women, and children arranged in patterns, some still alive after days. Mehmed, hardened by wars, reportedly said, "I cannot conquer a country ruled by such a man," and retreated, though he installed Radu as puppet prince. Another chilling tale involves Ottoman ambassadors in 1461. Demanding tribute, they refused to remove their turbans. Vlad, feigning respect, had them nailed to their heads with iron spikes before impaling them. Their bodies lined the road south, a defiant message. A Hungarian diplomat, Toma Caucazinos, dined at Poenary while watching impalements, with Vlad joking about fresher air at higher stakes. Saxon chroniclers noted Vlad releasing select prisoners to spread tales, turning survivors into terror propagators. Vlad's 1462 night attack on Mehmed's camp was audacious. Disguised as Turks, his forces slaughtered thousands, nearly killing the Sultan. Captives were impaled along retreat paths, their cries demoralizing pursuers. Yet, Vlad's terror bred isolation. By 1462, Hungarian King Matthias Corvinus arrested him on trumped-up charges, imprisoning him for 12 years in Visegrad Castle. Released in 1475, Vlad briefly reclaimed the throne in 1476 but was killed in battle, possibly beheaded, his head sent to Mehmed as a trophy. Vlad's legacy is dual. In Romania, he's a national hero for resisting Ottomans, with estimates of 40,000 to 100,000 killings seen as necessary. Elsewhere, he's a monster. German propaganda exaggerated tales for political gain, but core accounts align. His methods influenced psychological warfare studies, showing fear's efficacy, but ultimate unsustainability. Bram Stoker, inspired by 19th-century histories, borrowed the name Dracula for his 1897 novel, blending Vlad's bloodthirst with vampire lore. Modern psychology views Vlad as a product of trauma, PTSD from captivity, perhaps sadistic personality disorder, yet rational in his era's context. Vlad's story probes human darkness, how power corrupts, necessity justifies evil, and societies endure terror. His reign, though short, reshaped Wallachia, deterring invasions and centralizing rule. Yet it destroyed trust, economy, and morale. Comparisons to tyrants like Hitler or Stalin highlight patterns: systematic cruelty for control, but self-destruction follows. Expanding on his early life, Vlad's time in Ottoman courts included education in languages, horsemanship, and strategy. He learned Turkish, Persian, and Arabic, aiding diplomacy and espionage. His hatred manifested in petty rebellions, like refusing conversion, earning beatings. Released after his father's death, Vlad's first reign saw him impale rivals, foreshadowing later excesses. In 1457, Vlad targeted Saxon merchants in Brasov for economic sabotage. He impaled hundreds, raided villages, and burned homes with inhabitants inside. One account describes him dining amid 300 impaled Saxons, dipping bread in their blood, a motif in legends, possibly exaggerated but symbolic. Vlad's treatment of gypsies and minorities was harsh, forcing assimilation or execution. He once boiled gypsy leaders alive for theft. Women bore particular brunt. Unfaithful wives had genitals mutilated and skins displayed. One mistress, claiming pregnancy, was disemboweled to see the fruit of their love. The 1460 attack on Ottoman garrisons along the Danube showcased Vlad's military genius. Surprise raids killed thousands, with heads sent as proof. He crucified some, a Christian twist on impalement. During imprisonment, Vlad allegedly impaled rats and birds for amusement, per legends. Released, he married Ilona Shalagi, cousin of Matthias, fathering 2 sons. Death details vary. Ambushed by boyars or Turks, body buried at Snagov Monastery, though excavations found horse bones instead, fueling myths. Influence extends to films like Bram Stoker's Dracula and games. Romanian tourism promotes Dracula sites, blending history and fiction. Psychologically, Vlad exhibited Machiavellian traits, ends justify means. His era's brutality, crusades, inquisition, contextualizes but doesn't excuse. Trauma from family deaths and captivity likely triggered vengeance cycles. Modern views. Some Romanians celebrate June 8th as Vlad Day. Debates rage. Hero or villain? Evidence from documents like The Tale of Dracula, 1486, confirms atrocities, though numbers inflated. Vlad's innovations in torture, varying stake heights by rank, higher for nobles. He used short impalement for quick deaths, long for prolonged. Environmental integration, stakes in rivers to pollute water. Economic reforms, honest weights, punishing fraud with impalement. Legend of a golden cup left at a fountain untouched due to fear. Religious zeal, Orthodox Christian, building monasteries, yet torturing clergy for corruption. Family dynamics, Radu, the handsome, opposed Vlad, leading Ottoman-backed invasions. Allies like Stephen the Great of Moldavia shared tactics. Legacy in political theory exemplifies necessary evil, but warns of backlash. Cultural impact, inspired horror genre, from Stoker's novel to Interview with the Vampire. In examining Vlad, we see humanity's duality, capable of heroism and horror. His story urges vigilance against unchecked power.